Welcome to this video. This video is about installing a Android system for the E60-E61 BMW. This is a unit that I bought from Aliexpress, so it's a Chinese unit, if you will. And this unit was purchased online, and it was drop shipped from Germany to my location here in Europe, in Holland. That way I avoided taxes. So that is something, to think about for people living in the EU. And, there's like, what, these days, 20 countries that can skip import taxes. If your country has a very aggressive import regulation like my country, this is something, to think about. That way you pay for your unit and no extra costs are added. It's shipped by DHL, by the way, so that's a reputable shipping company, so no problems there. We're gonna look at the unit. So in fact, it's an unboxing, but I'm gonna skip the unboxing itself because it's just in a simple box, and what's inside is what we have here. Here we have the actual unit itself. Here we have a wire loom, and we have a GPS sensor. When we look at the unit itself, it looks not cheap at all. It has a metal back with several connectors, one of which, the big white one, is for the wire loom. And here we have a wire that needs to be connected to ground. And if we turn it around, it looks, very decent. It looks nice with a white screen. It feels, I would say, pretty premium. No real cheap plastic when you touch it. The brim here, it feels good. To the side we have the SD card slot, which is for micro SD, which will come in handy to store your navigation maps or any other apps you will find in Android, music, let's say in the MP3 format or waveform or Vorbis. And we also see the holes over there, which are probably the microphones in order to use your speech to control certain things or to phone hands-free. I don't really believe in the built-in microphones. I've seen these before in actual units, but I'll put it to the test and we'll see if it works. So this is pretty straightforward. It will replace the actual screen in the car, and by doing so, the original screen will still be maintained because you will be switching with the menu button between the actual screen that you have in the iDrive system and the actual Android system. The quality of the CCC or CIC, if you will be better. I've seen several videos because, of course, this is a modern LCD screen instead of the 2000 technology, because the cars were built in the first ones in 2003, but the technology is from the late 90s, and so you will see that the actual screens will be less advanced, and it shows. So I'll put it to the test in the next video, but I have high hopes. Here we have the wire loom, which is in fact a an adapter where you have this piece of wire which will go in between the actual wire, where it here you have a female and a male connector, and it's called the quad lock system, the one that BMW uses. So what happens is you unlock the cable, the wire loom that it's original in the car, and this goes in between them. So it will take data or will give the data to the car. That's why sound from the actual Android unit will go through the auxiliary port on the radio itself. This way you will also maintain your volume controls on your steering wheel, and hopefully also selection buttons and maybe some extra things for control. There are several of these Android units. They all work a little bit differently, and I have high hopes that this one will be controlled by the steering wheel and the iDrive system for the most part. That way you don't need to reach over to touch the screen for every single function. We also see here a USB connector, which will come in handy to get your data from a USB drive or a flash drive, or maybe external hard drive, or these days SSD drive. I'm not sure about the actual power output for this USB drive. In order to actually power an external drive, I will have to put that to the test. But I've already ordered a power supply, which will be I will mount it in the dashboard, and that will give me 2 extra USB ports just to power items, for to charge a big smartphone, which will require let's say at least 2 amps, or dash cam and things like that, a tablet. And I'm not sure about the output of this one, but we'll see what happens. As far as outputs are concerned, here we have the audio out, which are very important, especially to me, because you can have audio which is presented in the unit. For instance, you're streaming Spotify, you can stream or you can export the audio to, let's say, a rear system. For the kids in the back seat, you want to have the dual screen. This is where you get your audio from. And the same goes to one of these yellow ones. One is the video in connector, and the other one is video out. The video out is what you'll be using in conjunction with the audio. That way, everything that's shown on the screen in the front, you can send it to the back seats, and that way it's important. Or in my case, if you fancy a subwoofer in the back, you'll need the signal from the front. And this radio from BMW is not supported with RCA jacks like here. So you will use these to send RCA signal to the back using extension cable. You just plug them in. The battery is already in the trunk, so you can hook that up to your amp, and all you need is one remote cable and you're good to go. So that way you can easily hook up an external subwoofer or even an amp. If you want to have an amp in the back, and it needs an audio signal, this is the way to go. The remaining wires also have functions. I must say that there is no manual with this unit, which is a pity, even though it's self-explanatory, and the wires are not all labeled correctly. Some are all in Chinese, so they're not of any help, and some have an English description on them, but they're not always very logic. Here we have one, it says back. What does it mean? I use Google Translate, which is very handy with the camera option, to translate the Chinese inscription. And that way it's the rear camera input, the rear camera signal. So this needs to be hooked up to signal when, for instance, the automatic transmission goes into reverse. That will make it shift towards the picture of your rear view camera. I'm gonna install that next, in the next couple of weeks. So I will be using that. The same goes to this wire, the brown wire here. When you read the Chinese language here with the Google Translate, it will say camera power. So this one powers the rear camera. I don't think it's needed, because most of those cameras you mount in the trunk, either way you have the actual switch to open it, or you use it for the one that replaces the rear, the license plate light. The light that's there, you can change it. They are normally fed by the rear light. The light that illuminates, the white light, and it's powered by that. But I think this could be also used as a remote cable. So as soon as this radio turns on, this wire here will provide, let's say, 12 volts to the camera, which is an option, if it's not fed by itself. I'm gonna test this wire. I'm gonna measure it using a multi-tool, voltage tool, and I'm gonna see if it gives me, let's say 12 volts. That way it could be used as a remote as well. Here we have two wires, and they have on it DVD, IR, and judging by the Chinese description, I'm sorry about that. I think these are used to connect a DVD remote control, where you have a remote control. You can pick them up real cheap, and they have an IR sensor, and the sensor is connected to these, so you can control it from the back, for instance. Well, that's it for this wire loom, Also, the USB, according to the seller, you can use a hub to make more ports, because I asked them about it. I've seen units with 2 ports, which, some people find handy. It could be used, according to him, with a hub. So you can make from one, you can make 2 or 3 or 4, or extend as you go. And finally, we have here the GPS sensor, and it has a coax connection connector here. On the bottom, it has double-sided tape, so it will probably stick to anything. That needs to go on the back of this unit right there, next to the connector of the wire loom. It just screws on, and that's to give the unit its signal, for a GPS sensor. Luckily, on the E60, we have in front of the actual position where the screen will be mounted in the dashboard. A lot of people have the piece that covers the speaker, or the lack of that speaker in the center of the dashboard. Only the people with a Logic 7, I believe, they have a speaker mounted, and the rest, it's just empty. Anyway, there's plenty of room. Even if you have a speaker, according to the pictures I've seen online, you can put this one right there, and it will be below the mesh that covers it, so that way it will not be seen, and you will not be needing all this. This is like 8 feet of wire. You will only need a little bit. For people that choose to mount it in some other area, maybe, if it fails in the position I just mentioned, you can go to the side of the dashboard, go up, and bring it all the way to the rearview mirror. And with 8 feet, that should probably work. I'm not sure. I have to measure it out. I'm going to go the easy route, so I'm going to mount it just in front of the Android unit, and that way, that will be the easiest for me, and we'll see what happens. If it works, I will probably leave it there. If it doesn't work, I'll take the second easiest route, and I will place it just forward on top of the dashboard, close to the window. That way, you will not really see it, only if you look for it. And if that works, it's good. And otherwise, I will have to take the difficult route, where I have to go either to the left or to the right, and go all the way up the A-pillar, and then end up reaching the rearview mirror. But like I said, we'll have to wait and see. This is part 1 of 3 videos, where this is, the unboxing. This is what we actually get. This specific unit that I ordered. It will be below in the description. You will see the unit. I paid 368 euros for it. When it was, I got a deal on Aliexpress, but the prices will always fluctuate. They go up, they go down. There are other units that have probably a similar layout. I think they're all like 95% similar, but they have some have an extra port, or they lack a port, or I don't really know. I'm just gonna focus on this one. My next video will be about mounting this unit. How to take apart the dashboard and to mount it. I will do that. And then the third one, which is in my opinion the most important one, and that's where the majority of all videos lack, is the actual unit and how it is controlled and how is it working. I see people, that put up a decent video about people playing Spotify music, but how is it controlled? I see people, I see on the screen, I see them changing numbers, but is it done by a remote? Because I've seen people using like a trackpad remote that I ordered separately. That's something I preferably do not want to do because I want to keep my car clean. Or are they using the steering wheel selection knobs? Are they using the iDrive controller? And I will go into depth how everything is controlled. So what can we do and what can't we do? Because there is not going to be a system that's perfect. And I prefer to avoid using the touchscreen too much because it's fairly deep in in the dashboard with the E60 where it's hidden. I like the way it looks, but if you have to go forward and you have to bend and you have to reach all the way in there on the touchscreen, especially while driving, this is not something I want to do when changing tracks, switching maps or folders where you have videos stored or MP3s or whatever. So unless you have arms like Shaq, it will be very hard to reach. So I'm wondering, okay, will this system give me a lot of functionality using the facilities that are already in the car? This is, by the way, a system for the CCC. I have a basic audio system. I had no auxiliary port. I coded it. There's a good video made by David Rusking, I believe is his name, the American guy, and how to code it. I used that one. It works like a charm. I don't understand why people pay a lot of money to have a shop do it for them. I use this here cable, ordered it from Ali too for like $7, I believe, $7-8. Works like a charm. Downloaded the software, did it under 10 minutes, and this was my first time ever doing anything with a computer to the E60. I own the car a month now, so I'm used to working on cars, but never before I worked on a BMW, and I coded it within 10 minutes. So that's something that needs to be done. If you already have the auxiliary port on your car, you're good to go. You don't need to do that. But I had to do that. My car didn't have navigation, by the way, and I will be using navigation on this system. So we'll see how it works. I'll see you guys in part 2, which will be about the installation. Thank you very much.